Good afternoon. I'd like to go ahead and call the Oregon Transportation Commission meeting to order for Thursday, July 19th. We are in beautiful Seaside, Oregon. And you need me to be a little louder? Okay. Now let me move that in a little closer. How's that? Are we better? All right. So we do have a set of individuals that would like to welcome us to this neck of the woods. I have Council President Ms. Montero. Please join us, as well as my colleagues, Commissioner Thompson and Heimler. Please join us as well. And I know that we also have Senator Johnson and other, do we have, if anyone else wants to, okay. Okay, okay, very good, wonderful. Council President, would you like to, okay, wonderful, yes. Does, so I'm fine, no.
They just went, oh, I worked.
Oh, it works. Okay, good. Look at that. Okay, we are back in the saddle. Back in, yes. Okay. Shall we? Oh, wait,
Okay.
are we on it? Okay, excellent. Please.
Okay, thank you. Chair Bainey and commissioners. I understand it's been at least 10 years since OTC has visited Seaside, so we're very glad to have you here. On behalf of Mayor Jay Barber, the members of the Seaside City Council, and the city staff, I welcome you to Seaside. I hope you have the time to enjoy our businesses, our restaurants, and some of the recreational opportunities here, starting with our wonderful beach. I think we're going to have better weather than Portland this weekend. While our convention center is in a bit of disarray, it's for a very good reason. We're also very excited to have begun a $15 million expansion, which is totally funded through the transient lodging tax. We're really looking forward to opening the doors to a revitalized and expanded convention center next summer. During the past week, I've been musing about what I would tell you today. Let me share with you a few of my thoughts, and it's all pretty personal. When I moved to Seaside 16 years ago, I was surprised to hear people say, "Oh, I never go to Warrenton or Astoria. It's too far away." Now, that's only about 15 or 20 miles away, and I moved here from Seattle. I commuted further when I lived in Seattle from home to work. But as I've commuted on the North Coast, I realized that the difference is in having alternatives, different ways to go where you want to go and be able to choose. In Seattle, I had 4 or 5 different possibilities for my commute. That was great, especially when there was an accident or traffic was bad. When I used to commute from Seaside to Tongue Point, which is east of Astoria, there was basically only one way here. And the connection between 101 and alternatives, such as Lewis and Clark, are few and far between. Last year, I discovered 101 Business, which goes from southeast Warrenton, right about where the Costco is, up to East Astoria. I was so pleased. I had another way to get to Astoria. And while it's not really any shorter, it gives me a change of scenery, and also I know I have an alternative if there's something happening on the bridge, something else going on. And when I'm going to East Astoria, that's the only way I go now. I'm going on a road trip to Denver next week. I've been studying maps and routes, and I want to avoid major construction. Can we say Portland? And of course, forest fires, which I'm now getting a little worried about. This exercise has reinforced for me the importance of drivable, safe roads. I drive to Pineville several times a day to visit family. I'm willing to drive a little longer going out on 84 and down 197 to avoid Highway 20 or 26, both of which I don't like to drive. I like driving in open space and not so windy roads. Following the Columbia is enjoyable, but I don't like the 197 windiness around Maupin. So in August, I'm going to drive a little further out on 84 and take 97 southbound. And it's still worth the extra time to me if that turns out to be a not so windy road. I don't drive 26 or 30 in the dark because I don't feel safe enough. Too many drivers speeding or taking stupid chances when passing. This decision limits where I go between November and February. This summer, I'm testing out another alternative for myself, and that is I'll be taking the trial run on the Point bus and Max train to get from Seaside to PDX. The Seaside schools are moving and will definitely change the traffic patterns and create needs we don't yet know. The members of our Seaside Transportation Advisory Commission are working hard to keep our transportation plan updated and current, while also facing challenges of future transportation needs in our city. While I know I've been heavy on the road and car aspect of transportation, I share to reinforce that there are a myriad of needs, wants, opinions, etc., etc., etc. You have huge challenges before you as you consider these for every part of the state and for every type of transportation. Mayor Barber asked that I invite you to revisit the urgent need to address the traffic situation on Highway 101 from the 26th junction through Seaside and further north. There are new people and minds at the table in Seaside and are open to finding workable solutions to what is more than just frustrating traffic delays. There are significant safety concerns for traffic stoppage, which is a very common issue during the summer season. And I've got to get our ask in. When federal funding for bridge infrastructure becomes available, Seaside has a shovel-ready project around the $5 million mark that's just ready to go and ready to start. We wish you a successful meeting and enjoyable times while you're visiting Seaside and invite you to return soon. Thank you.
Very much. That was a wonderful welcome. Commissioners, who would like? Let's go ahead and work
Push
your
this button.
Thank you. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Bainey, Commissioners. Appreciate the moment here to welcome you. My name is Henry Heimiller, a Columbia County Commissioner, and in addition to representing the citizens of Columbia County, I also chair the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, COLPAC, which you'll hear a little bit about later on, and I serve you on the Public Transportation Advisory Committee. Just want to put my ask in. You're welcome to come to the Columbia County Fair and Rodeo, which I had to escape from to come here, and the best rodeo in the Pacific Northwest, and probably the most beautiful fairgrounds you'll ever see. Come on down and visit us. If you need some tickets, let me know. The whole shooting match. I'm always pleased to also say that Columbia County is the home of Senator Betsy Johnson and Representative Brad Witt, and we're always pleased to work together as a team. We welcome you to the northwest corner of our state. Wish you a very, very good meeting here today. Come by and visit us more often. We'd love to have you. And stop by St. Helens and see us when you get a chance. Have a productive meeting, and you'll hear a little more from us a little later on. Thank you.
Welcome. My name is Leanne Thompson. I'm a Clatsop County Commissioner, and I don't have to tell you what we need because you know what we need. If you drove here in a motor vehicle today, even if Senator Johnson had been able to, airlift you with a helicopter, you'd have had to drive on our roads. You understand that tourism is a lifeblood of our economy. You understand that we get between 40 and 100,000 extra people in one summer weekend just here in Seaside, which is also the most vulnerable to tsunami inundation. You know that what you do is one of the highest forms of public service because you know everybody's going to be asking and hardly anybody's going to be saying thank you for a job well done. We want you to know that we do appreciate the job that you've been doing. Representative Boone is also here, and she's here from our part of the world as well. Senator Johnson, we're always honored to have in the room. What we're looking to do is to be your capable and willing partners through Northwest Act and in any other way that we can personally or professionally support the fine work that you're doing. I want to appreciate not only your traffic engineers and all the staff you have working for the State Highway Department. I even had this really wonderful conversation with a contract flagger because we're talking as he's got me stopped beside the road, which I wasn't real happy about when it first happened. But after we're chatting for a while, he looks down at me and says, "Oh, I get it. You do what you do because your heart is in this place." So our hearts are in this place. We hope that since you've come to visit us, we know your heart's got to be all over Oregon. We hope we have a special place in your heart because we desperately need all the good you can do for us. Thanks for coming.
Well, and I know we will get to this in a bit, but it is really telling, the partnership and the commitment to your communities when you look at all that has been done with your regional solutions team and the economic vitality and the commitment to your community here. So it is not lost on us, and we are here to learn as well and take some of the lessons that we can glean from you and use those in other areas as well. Because I think in terms of economically challenged communities for decades, being able to really add that vibrancy and come together is a strong suit that you have been able to do here. And so just wanted to let you know that we are here to learn as well, because you are doing a lot of things right. So thank you for the welcome. Wonderful to see you all. And we will probably see a few of you here in just a minute as well. So next we will go on to one of the highlights of our year, and that is the recognition of our next generation. And Director Garrett, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's certainly a privilege to be the director of the Oregon Department of Transportation, and allows me to do some pretty cool stuff. But I have to tell you, recognizing the Jackson Scholarship recipients is probably one of the highlights that I usually get the privilege of doing each and every year. So with that, let's jump into it. For context, the Jackson Scholarship Program was established in 1985, is named after the late Glenn L. Jackson, widely regarded as Oregon's first citizen. For nearly 20 years, Mr. Jackson served on the Highway and the Transportation Commission. Most of that time he held the gavel. Chairman Jackson had a positive and lasting influence on both state parks that were part of ODOT when Mr. Jackson held that gavel. But he's made a lasting influence and obviously a legacy that we still adhere to today, both on parks and transportation here in the state of Oregon. Now, contributors to the Jackson Scholarship Fund include Oregon Department of Transportation and state park employees, their families, their friends, business associates, all donating money in the memory of Glenn Jackson. And it should be noted that no state funds were used to establish the scholarship fund, so this is a donation that folks keep on giving. Now, who's eligible for this great opportunity? College-bound students who are dependents of current regular status ODOT or state park employees or retirees may apply for the Glenn Jackson Scholarship. Applicants are evaluated by the Oregon State Scholarship Commission on their academic record, leadership qualities, moral character, and community and academic activities. So with that, let's go to the winners. We have two winners, recipients of the 2018 Jackson Scholarship, Justin Brophy and Sophia Heyman. These are very impressive, accomplished individuals, and I'm going to share a little bit about each. Let's start with Justin. Justin is the third of 6 children and the son of Kevin, who works at the ODOT Technical Service Branch as a lab service manager, and Serena Brophy. As a child, Justin was a person who would take out the garbage without being asked, just because he saw it needed to be done. Justin, I have a 10-year-old that you need to talk to, my friend. As a young man, he continues to be a person who is quick to provide a helping hand to all. With 2 older brothers, Justin was always trying to keep up with them in all aspects of life. When both his brothers had graduated from St. John Bosco High School, after Justin's sophomore year, he decided to transfer to Chemeketa Community College's early college program with the intent of graduating high school early. A year later, he did indeed do that. He graduated with a year's worth of college-level credits. Now, these weren't simple credits. These were classes in calculus and probabilities and statistics and chemistry. He went off to the University of Dallas in Irvington, Texas, where he is a pre-med major in what would be his senior year in high school. Justin would like to thank anyone and everyone for this award, given the honor that it brings in acknowledging Mr. Jackson. Let's turn to Sophia. Sophia was born in Klamath Falls. She was raised in Salem and is the daughter of Rob Heyman. He's an ODOT project inspector out in the Troutdale area in Region 1 here. She has been enthusiastic about learning and reading from a very young age. Sophia earned her way into the National Honor Society during her junior year and graduated from Blanchet Catholic School in June with a cumulative GPA of 3.8. Sophia has not only dedicated much of her time to schoolwork, but also to athletics. She has been competing in track and field since the age of 10 and has been on the varsity track and field team all 4 years in high school. She has competed in the OSAA Class 3A state championships in Eugene and has placed second in the state long jump, triple jump, and the 4x100 relay. This year, she helped her team achieve first place. I guess that would be state champions in the 3A girls. And she has also reset her school record for triple jump by more than 9 inches to a distance of 35 feet, 11.75 inches. Over the past 4 years, Sophia has been involved in her school's varsity soccer, cross-country, and basketball teams. She has participated in Blanchet Catholic's theater department for 3 productions. Sophia plays the flute, the saxophone in the school band, and in which she's also the band student council president for the last 2 years. Sophia will be attending Seattle University in the fall and intends on majoring in political science and history, and she will also be competing for the Seattle University track and field team. So with that, please join me in congratulating the 2018 Jackson Scholarship Award winners. Thank you for doing that. What I'd like to do now, very quickly, and I'm going to beg your indulgence, but I'd like Justin and Sophia to come up here along with Mom and Dad, and we're going to snap a very quick picture with the chair and myself. So if you can come forward, we'll get a photo. We're going to be the thorn between the roses. Okay. Yeah, overall. Oh, we're going to move this way? Okay. And then take them closer. And closer together than you might think you would be. Okay. Scooch it up just a little bit. Okay. And we've got everybody there. Maybe a quick shot. Much safe. We'll get you. Okay, so we're going to do some reassurance. Thank you all very much. Great. Congratulations. It's a big deal. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Madam Chair, thank you for that, and that concludes my remarks. I turn it back to you.
Excellent. Let's go on now to a discussion with the Northwest Area Manager, Ms. Snell, and we will have a discussion with the North Coast Regional Solutions team. So we'll go ahead and turn the table over. And Lisa, I'll turn it to you when you feel ready. I'll come down with this.
Thank you, Chair Boehne and Commissioners. My name is Lisa Nell, and I'm the Area 3 Manager for Region 2 at ODOT. Over the last year, I was manager for both Areas 1 and 3, and that's why I'm sitting here today with Area 1. And I just wanted to mention quickly that we did hire a new Area 1 manager, and his name is Tony Snyder, and he does sit in the audience today. So today, I just wanted to say a few things. During this agenda item, we'll be listening to an update from the North Coast Regional Solution Team. The RST works closely with ODOT management and technical staff to coordinate economic development opportunities and ensure that transportation needs are considered and addressed for successful business ventures. Region 2 has enjoyed the partnerships that we have had with the Northwest Coast Regional Solution Team members and look forward to continued collaborative efforts. At this time, I want to introduce Mark Ellsworth, who is the North Coast Regional Solutions Team Coordinator.
Thank you, Lisa. Chair Boehne, Commission members, Director Garrett, it's a privilege for us to appear before you today. We know your time is valuable, and we hope we can give you a brief overview of our work and acquaint you with some of the projects in our region. I think I'd like to have, we're sitting as a team because we work as a team and we value the collaboration of each one of us. I'm the governor's coordinator, and I'd like to have the team members introduce themselves quickly, and then I'll have some more remarks.
Commissioners, I'm Jennifer Purcell. I'm a regional coordinator with the Department of Environmental Quality. I work out of our Tillamook Regional Solutions Center in Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia counties.
Good afternoon. I'm Jay Pudwell. If your eyes are better than mine, you can actually read my sign here that says South Valley Mid-Coast. It should be Mid-Coast Regional Solutions Team. I'm actually the Region 2 Regional Solutions Team Liaison from ODOT. So I cover the North Coast, the Mid-Valley, and the South Valley Mid-Coast region.
Commissioners, my name is Lisa Phipps. I'm the North Coast Regional Representative for the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And in addition to the Regional Solutions geography, I also include Lincoln County as part of my DLCD responsibilities.
Chair Boehne, Commissioners, my name is Becky Bryant, and I work for Business Oregon. I'm the Regional Project Manager for the North Coast region as well as the Metro region. I'm housed in Salem the majority of the time and spend about 1 day a week in the Tillamook office and 1 day a week in our Portland office.
I'm Senator Betsy Johnson. I have the privilege of being the Senate representative from District 16, which is Northwest Oregon, and I serve at the pleasure of the governor as the convener for what I believe is the premier regional solutions team in Oregon.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. We are a great team, and a lot of that is due to her leadership and drive and direction. We have an aggressive work plan. So a project makes it to our work plan because it can't be solved any other way or through normal channels. And as you know, the Regional Solutions Program is an institutionalization in part of collaboration among state agencies. I'm going to read you our priorities that we try to focus our work around. You have those in front of you. And then Jay and the team are going to talk about a couple of projects, and then we'll be open to answering questions from you. We decided to have a team mission. Not all teams have a mission. Ours is to promote and sustain healthy communities through retention, diversification, and expansion of the economic base. Job creation is paramount, with the goal of expanding the region's economic base while being responsible stewards of the region's natural resources. As priorities, we will sustain and grow Northwest Oregon businesses in areas such as aerospace, marine-based industries, small manufacturing, tourism, forest products, and agriculture. Support innovation, business incubation, and the manufacturing of new product technologies. Assist business startups and entrepreneurs. Improve the readiness of industrial land by addressing wetlands, transportation access, infrastructure, and other impediments. Work to increase the number of sites that have building-ready status. Review, streamline, and address regulatory and permitting impediments to economic development. Support comprehensive solutions to barriers limiting business retention and expansion, such as housing, workforce development, and work with rural communities to plan, coordinate, fund, and install needed infrastructure and advance community development and resiliency initiatives. We also work closely, Henry Heimuller, Commissioner, Columbia County, also mentioned COLPAC. That is our federally designated economic development district. Mary MacArthur, who runs that, is out of town and was unable to be here. She's also staffs the work of the Act in this region and is one of the greatest public servants we have in Oregon. We have determined that we will align our work exactly and completely with COLPAC as a way of providing communities with a clear signal that they have to work with their federal partners, their state partners, to get projects to rise in importance, and with the Act in the coordination of our work across the state. With that, I'm going to turn the time to Jay, and he's going to highlight a couple of projects.
Good afternoon. I think you should have the handouts for 3 projects we hope to cover briefly today. The first one looks like this. This is the Tongue Point Road System, or Tongue Point. Tongue Point has a long history in the marine and business. It's a 30-plus acre industrial park, industrial area. It also has a history from World War II in terms of being a naval air station, or naval, air station. I guess it was a naval air and sea station at that point. There are a number of piers out there, 5-finger piers and 2 large seaplane hangars. A lot of it as a holdover from World War II. The state of Oregon acquired the land in the 1980s and sold it to a private developer in the year 2000. In 2009, the Port of Astoria acquired a lease to the property with the vision of developing a marine industry, industrial services and sector out there. They were unable to pull this together for a variety of reasons, including raising capital and a variety of other circumstances. They were unable to do that. The port gave up their release, and the private ownership changed to the Hayek Group, Hayek Maritime, in late last year. This was a very fortuitous event for this area. Hayek Maritime is a U.S.-based marine transportation company that constructs and charters vessels to operating companies. It has a very long and very well-known history in the maritime industry, and a very respected history. The presence of both, a variety of reasons have started constraining the maritime industry up in Washington. Gentrification, land use issues, and rising costs, et cetera, have really constrained the development there. And this has really caused Hayek and hopefully other companies to look outside of that area for these services. And Tongue Point has the promise of being a critical part of this business. One of the key companies that is already based there at this facility is Burgesson Construction, is that how you say it? Yes. Burgesson, I think it is. They are a well-known company, probably well-known to you folks, because they've done a lot of Connect Oregon projects over the years. And the ability to work with them and retain them as one of their tenants was a key draw for Hayek Maritime purchasing this facility. In addition to the new investment from Hayek, the Coast Guard facility up in that area, which is currently based on the west side of Tongue Point, just announced that they were going to be basing 2 fast response cutters on the east side of Tongue Point at the facilities either owned by, either at piers owned by Hayek or by the Job Corps at this point, which also has a facility out there on Tongue Point. In addition to that facility, that new maritime business coming into play, the Clatsop Community College, Clatsop County Community College, which has a maritime sciences program there, about the only one in Oregon, has announced recently that they are launching a $20 million capital improvement program. That they starting with a grant of $8 million from the state of Oregon. They hope to build this up and really emphasize retraining and technology development for this site. The problem with all of this is that this area, however, is the roads, and that's why we're here. The roads in and out are very poor. The only real access there is on the map there on page 3 is from Cedar Street. It has 2 switchbacks and about 100 feet of foot of elevation drop, plus a railroad crossing in the middle of it. It is practically impassable for large trucks, and that is really the only way in and out right now. It would make sense to use Tongue Point Road, but Tongue Point Road has jurisdiction problems because the federal government owns most of it, and they cannot allow public access for a variety of reasons. So the City of Astoria and the Regional Solutions Business Oregon are partnering to actually fund a study and a design to try and fix this. And we hope to come back to you folks again soon with an IOF application to actually help build a road out to Hyatt. So it's a terrific opportunity for the Astoria and for the Tongue Point area. The next project we'd like to highlight is a new project we just picked up called the West Point Slough. It's just a single point with a couple pictures on it. The Westport Slough. Westport is a small community, basically by Midway on Columbia River. It's noted primarily for its ferry to the Puget Sound. But it also has a huge, and I'm told it's a large quarry, 80 million tons of rock, I think, if I remember right, in the quarry nearby, owned by Teven Brothers. Teven Brothers used to export rock by barge out of this slough, but they had to stop because it silted over. They ceased barge operations in 2001. They would very much like to resume barge operations there. It would bring upwards of 30 to 40 jobs into that area, nice, good, high-paying jobs. And they are willing to donate land for a new road in order to facilitate that. The project right now is moving forward much more rapidly than we had originally thought, but it looks like that the Army Corps of Engineers and Teven Brothers and Business Oregon are going to be partnering on a dredging effort, and hopefully that will get going. And once that looks like that can be done and be maintained, then Teven Brothers and the county, and hopefully with an IOF application again, we can build a new road out to this facility and really bring some good economic growth to that area. Another key thing is this is high quality basalt rock, which meets the federal requirements for piers and jetties. It's also very useful for roads. The last project I'd like to highlight is a House Bill 2017 project. I know this isn't funding in 2021, but we will wait patiently for the funds because the cash is being spent now. House Bill 2017 had a line item for OMIC roads. Senator Johnson will be giving you an update on the Oregon Manufacturing and Innovation Center shortly. There's a flyer in your handout that will give you some, some background on that as well. A reminder of that, I should say. House Bill 2017 supplied $4 million to this facility to be spent on the roads for the research center and for the education center. And I am pleased to announce that we were I was told we were the first IGA for House Bill 2017 in process, and I think we were the first one finished, but I wasn't sure. We completed that IGA this spring, and both phases, both one for the research center and for the roads, will start this summer. And so with construction, the first phase will be completed by fall. We certainly hope the second phase will be completed next spring. Are there any questions on any of the projects?
Well, on the federal ownership question
Yeah.
if you need any assistance, if there, I don't know that there would be a role for us, but sometimes, just supporting an effort like that, if I would just avail the commission to you. And I'm thrilled to hear the use of the IOF fund. That really is the right route to go, and look forward to those applications too. So, Senator, would you like to update us?
Thank you. I'd like to make a couple, for the record, Betsy Johnson, Senate District 16. For the record, I'd like to make a couple of 100,000-foot comments about regional solutions. I would call your attention to page 7 of the handout that was attached to the agenda item. And the reason that I do is that this is a perfect exemplar of regional solutions at its absolute best. This is a project that has been completed. It's called the Southern Flow Corridor. It just won an ACEC major award for engineering excellence. And it's done now. We still have it in our work plan because we're pretty damn proud of it, and there's some ongoing monitoring that will accompany it. But I want to point out the funding sources. This is private, federal, local government. It's businesses donating in kind. It's businesses helping us with hydrologic modeling. And you will see the sources of funds, our ongoing work, who did the work. This is a perfect example of regional solutions at its absolute best. And work products out of this are scalable and exportable to other places, specifically a contract that will allow some gravel to be taken out of Chetco. And again, that flowed out of our work in brokering peace between the environmental community and the need for aggregate and high-quality gravel. So I just call your attention. This is regional solutions at its absolute best on page 7. A not inconsequential project. It took us a lot of years to get it done, and that's why some of the things that you see in our work plan are highly aspirational. We built 3 schools with $40 million. This was a $10.5 million project, and we cobbled together that mosaic of funding that we need because no single entity can pull it off on their own. Having said that, I want to comment briefly on HIAC, and this is a personal comment. During World War II, my mother was a naval officer and was part of the command structure when Tongue Point was a PBY line maintenance base. And so I have that little thin thread of connectivity to this part of the world, and go out there and see the seaplane ramp and remember what it looked like during WW2 or the pictures that I've seen, and can only imagine the bright future out there for jobs and economic opportunity. I'm going to comment briefly on OMIC, and I will. The packet is here in front of you. I will say that OMIC is without a doubt the most exciting thing I have done in my public life. The Oregon Manufacturing Innovation Center is modeled after the AMRC, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center at the University of Sheffield, a partnership with Boeing. Boeing has done 14 of these centers around the world. They have one in Korea, one in Japan, the mothership in England at the University of Sheffield. This will be their only one of its kind in the United States. And I think I can say without fear of reservation that if we pull this off, and there is a certain high wire act associated with it, but if we pull this off, this will have ramifications not just for Oregon and the region, but I dare say the nation. This is a very big deal. We have 20 industry partners now, 21 possibly, if lunch went well today. I left a meeting at OMIC to come here, and I'm going to leave you early tomorrow to go back to an OMIC board meeting, but we were doing a high-level recruitment. Companies join at considerable expense to themselves. We have a tiered membership, and a top-tier membership is $300,000 to sit at the board table, and then they come on down. Our goal is to not only service the big guys and our global partners, our Vigor, Daimler, Boeing, but also to make sure that we have products that are useful to smaller manufacturers, drawing on Oregon's storied history as a manufacturing center. We have one community college, 3 university academic partners, University of Oregon State University, Portland State University, and OIT. And so once again, we are knitting together philanthropy, academia, business, and government to deliver a collaborative project. The Oregon legislature has been very generous to OMIC to the tune of $21 million. Our partner companies have donated at this point about $15 million in equipment. Most recently installed was a $3.5 million mill turn from a company in Linz, Austria that not only gave us the machine, but sent technicians to put it in place. We will be doing industry-driven problem solving with an idea of not writing academic dissertations at the end, but instead taking that problem solution, putting it into the supply chain. We want to make it go faster, greener, better, less expensive. Boeing is operating on the largest book of business in the history of the world. And unfortunately, much of that is fixed price contracts. So in order to deliver, we've got to figure out how do we make it better, smarter. And oh, by the way, greener. One of our partners has a synthetic drilling lubricant that has established major markets in the European Union and in Japan. It's called Hangstafers, and they are one of our top tier members. Important to the development of OMIC to its full potential is the 500-acre campus that we have. We brought 200 acres inside the UGB, and I know all of you are old hands at government, especially Mr. Van Brocklin, who knows this piece of property well. We brought 200 acres inside the UGB, which was not an insubstantial accomplishment. We have had very patient developers helping us. We have a spent gravel pit that's now being filled for beneficial use. We were able to buy a building that was opened as a corporate headquarters in 2008 for a construction company, and unfortunately that was not an auspicious time to be in the construction business. We are the beneficiaries of being able to buy their building. And so by the time gravel pits are reclaimed, land is brought into the UGB, partnerships are established to build out our campus, we have to have roads to travel around inside of it. And fortuitously, the legislature saw fit to do that. We have used other opportunities, municipalities serving as fiscal agents. We just got word last night that one of our main roads into the R&D facility that had run into a little stormwater problem is all resolved. And hopefully we'll have the opportunity to invite the Transportation Commission out to see what we think is going to be a regional showcase as we continue to acquire partners, build out our facilities, invite other academic collaboration. This is not in any way to usurp or duplicate the high-powered research that's already going on in the engineering schools at PSU or OSU. It's rather to maximize on that partnership and perhaps use our facility to buy pieces of equipment that are beyond the financial reach of the individual partner organizations. But key to the development is the innovation district that will be driven by solid transportation systems as we invite the world to Oregon.
If that doesn't just make your hair stand up, I don't know what will. That is exciting. So, oh, go right ahead.
No, I was just going to thank you for the time. And
well, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Workforce, housing, how are you doing in this region? Are those, we travel around the state on purpose. We want to hear what's happening and be able to share the good work that's going on, but also be able to kind of coalesce around the state what's happening within community. Are you, so we have this wonderful new opportunity. How are we doing in terms of workforce and being able to connect all of that to make sure that there's opportunity for the next generation and for those that are seeking work today?
I'll take a shot at
Okay,
part of that
please.
answer
Yeah.
because I have the global view of all of the counties, Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia. I think we're doing well on workforce. We not only have workforce that's used to working in manufacturing, given the long history of paper production and the marine industries and the timber industries. Where they live is a challenge for every single county in my district. And Tillamook, I'm pleased to say, has taken the lead in working with Oregon Housing and Community Services, and I think some major announcements will come out shortly about opportunity there. But every single community I represent right now has not only obvious homelessness problems on the street, but for the hospitality industry especially, having seasonal workforce where they're trying to get the shoulder seasons to be a little bit longer. Having people working in hospitality driving from Clatskanie to work in Astoria is problematic. We are not unique in this part of the world in struggling with workforce housing. I would submit at some point it needs to be a policy discussion for the administration and the legislature to talk about our land use architecture and how the constrained supply is affecting the ability to develop. But that's another conversation for another time. And unless I've lied about something, I beg correction from my colleagues. But we're all struggling. The whole state is.
Tillamook County, the senator mentioned a lot that's happened there. Recently completed a housing study. One of the first in the state to offer up some innovative approaches. And I think Jennifer may be the most familiar with it among us, and maybe she could give a minute on it.
Sure. I would just say, in addition to what Senator Johnson and Mark have mentioned, one of the things that's unique in the coastal environment is the disparity between what would be considered workforce housing and then second home ownership. And the Tillamook County study really does a good job of highlighting the differences between what are considered sort of those beachfront communities versus the inland environment where folks are living and working. And that's one of the uniquenesses, I think, to the coastal environment. But that report really is it's a success story in terms of articulating the issues.
So wearing my hat as a county commissioner in Deschutes, we've put that on our work plan, and we're using the template from Tillamook County because it really does, like, being part of the 10-year plan to end homelessness from a handful of years ago, that work was all good and well, but then we had a recession, and now it looks different. And we have the VRBOs, and we have, so the mix looks different. And then you have individuals that are traversing between communities when they're adding to the congestion and some of the issues that you're having with tourism. And so it just ripples from there. So thank you.
I'd also like to comment on the Tongue Point project. In that area, I mean, our primary focus was on the economic development piece of it. But one of the upsides of having that road fixed is, in fact, the ability for upwards of, I believe, 200 homes to be built in that area. I think that's about the right number from some of the plans. But right now, they can't get there. The road system cannot service from that. And that's one of the downsides, if you want to look at it, that from the Coast Guard expansion as well as HIAC and investments there's going to be even more pressure in Astoria on the limited housing supply.
Other questions or comments? Great work. Thank you so very much. Next, we will welcome a discussion. Sorry, let me get all my materials. Ms. Snell, I think I turn it back over to you again.
Yes, please.
Okay, wonderful. And we will have a panel discussion with the Northwest Act.
We're missing our senator.
She'll be with you when she's ready.
Send the hook after her.
Sorry.
Oh, you are just fine.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Boehne and Commissioners. Again, Lisa Nell, Region 2, Area 3 Manager. During this segment, we will hear from Senator Betsy Johnson and Henry Heimuller, the Northwest Act Chair and Columbia County Commissioner, and also Jeff Hazen, the Director of the Sunset Empire Transit District. These folks will present some information, provide comments, and present the Northwest the NWACT, or Northwest Area Commission on Transportation Biennial Report, and respond to the 3 questions that were posed to the ACT members for their participation. I'm sorry, I'm going off my page here. They're going to respond to the 3 questions that were posed to them in preparation for this meeting. They are right there in front of us, pardon me. So with that, I just want to say something before they begin speaking. I would like to say thank you to the Northwest Act members for their partnership over the past year. I've appreciated their candor, tenacity, and spirit, and I'll really miss being part of their team. Thank you so much.
It's been great having you. Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead, Henry? You're the chair.
Chair Boehne, Commissioners, hang on here, I'll bring up my notes. I do want to start with a little bit of a acknowledgement of some of our past members and folks that are retiring from the Northwest Act. And I want to do this now because it's important for us to recognize them before I forget about them. It's important for you all to realize that when I was first elected to the Board of Commissioners in Columbia County, one of the first things that was asked of me was to, and I barely knew what an act was. That's not true. I had been there as a transit guy, but I really hadn't gotten involved in the higher level. If it didn't have wheels on it and looked like a bus, I really wasn't paying that close of attention back in those days. But I was asked by my colleagues to serve as the vice chair of the act under Mayor Shirley Calcoben. And I had met Shirley a few times, and I thought, oh my gosh, I really don't want to get on the wrong side of this lady. And the thing that I want to tell you is Shirley and I became great friends, and she drugged me around the state to the different meetings and was my true mentor. And so in the last couple of years, we lost Shirley. And she and I had joked at a time or two, and she said, now keep in mind, and she called me some name, and I can't remember that right this minute. One of these days, I'm not going to wake up, she says, and you're going to have to do this. And I said, no, I'm the wrong guy. You're going to be here forever. And besides that, I can't wear stilettos like you do. And all this, you know, we would joke back and forth one way or the other. And sure enough, one day she just didn't. And I became the chair, and I miss her every day. So Mayor Calcoben.
Incidentally, Commissioner, if I can interrupt you
Please.
for just a second, Shirley actually was felled by a lethal stroke while working on ACT business. And we were all called. She was communicating back and forth with Mary MacArthur, and Mary said, I've been trying to raise Shirley, and she's not answering, and that is so uncharacteristic. And so when medical assistance was dispatched, she was actually at her typewriter working on ACT stuff. She is like the patron saint of our ACT.
And so, and the reason that I want to point that out is because I fall far short of her expertise in all of these things, but nonetheless, she taught me a whole bunch. And then we also lost Don Larson, our Seaside mayor, who was a longtime Northwest Area Commission on Transportation member, and he passed in 2016 and Shirley in 2015. We also have some retiring board members from our ACT. Longtime commission member and chair, Commissioner Mark Labhart, is no longer with us, and also Ron Pusey, who was a Class County City Councilor, still a member of our local County Transportation Commission, and Russ War from the Astoria City Council. All of those folks have retired out and are no longer serving on our commission, but have served us very, very well, and I wanted them to be recognized right up front. Okay, back to my notes. This will be our biennial report. You have all of the handouts, and I have extra copies of our charter and our bylaws, which were just revised last year, about a year ago this month. And I have those. I'll put them up back there when I'm all done. To refresh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. That might be a little easier for my eyes to read. To refresh, everybody knows that the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation includes Columbia, Clatsop, Tillamook, and rural Washington counties in the area of Banks, Gaston, and North Plains. We not only have our own local and residential business transportation needs, but we're also Portland's playground, doubling and tripling the road traffic in our coastal communities on peak summer weekends. Addressing and improving transportation to, from, and within Northwest Oregon keeps us busy collectively with our ODOT, county, city, and private sector partners. Over the last 2 years, ODOT's role has been instrumental, particularly with funding transportation infrastructure that has significantly supported business development. For example, the Port of Garibaldi's Wharf Rehabilitation Project, which received Connect Oregon funding and has brought in multiple new tenants and revenue to the port. It is the hub for the port's complete revamping of the city's waterfront. The Teven Brothers Mooring Dolphins has added 10 new jobs that were added to support to bring new barging activities that utilizes this new mooring capacity. This has also increased rail jobs and other commerce through our county as that port has expanded and the additional barges and all of the products that are going in and out of there have increased as the docking facility has improved. There's been a life flight hangar improvements. This project retained not only an important Clatsop County employer, but it also meant critical medical care capacity remains on the North Coast. Northwest Oregon received over $130 million in 2015-2018 STIP funding, all of which are nearly ready for completion. Two of those significant projects are modernization of the highways, the Highway 101, Highway 6 interchange, which is improving traffic flow and supporting the city of Tillamook's downtown revitalization. The Rainier A Street safety rail improvements hasn't broken ground yet, but is going to be a very significant one that's coming in our very near future. Oftentimes there's 30, 40, 50 train cars going right through the middle of downtown Rainier. When a unit train goes through, it's 100 to 110 cars. Now, our rail partners are very, very safety conscious. They pay really close attention, but you literally see, just last weekend, I was down there, and you'll see someone back out of a parking spot at a restaurant and, you know, be within 2 or 3 feet of a train before they see it. Thank goodness the trains are going slow. People that live there know to watch, but folks that are coming through, just stopping for a meal or stopping at the hardware store and something like that, oftentimes aren't paying attention, and they oftentimes even think that the rail line is abandoned. It's not, nor should it be, and it's very important to the economic vitality of our county. That project's been a long time coming, and it will significantly increase pedestrian and auto traffic safety in the downtown area of Rainier. Another key aspect to Northwest Area Commission on Transportation is our public information and education. Over the last 2 years, we've had presentations and follow-up discussions on transportation funding, bicycle and pedestrian programs, public transit, rails and trails, ODOT planning, and ODOT oversight. Northwest Area Commission members have met with the Governor's Transportation Visiting Panel and the Interim Joint Legislative Commission on Transportation. Northwest Act members coordinate concerns with ODOT to remedy fixes on ODOT's system. The last biennium, ODOT was able to address 2 specific issues: Highway 131 bicycle safety and Highway 26 at Elsie safety to enhance signage. Generally, the key issues facing Northwest Oregon are safety, road maintenance, and congestion during peak traffic and travel times. This biennium, Northwest Act is focusing on identifying a regional list of key transportation priorities and to review and prioritize ODOT's critical Oregon Airport Relief Corps applications. Northwest Act, Charter, and Bylaws administratively we went through a complete review of the charter and bylaws, as I mentioned a minute ago, just about a year ago. No significant changes were needed, and you have copies, I think, in your packets, and we'll have extras out here as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jeff Hazen, to bring us up to speed on the Northwest Connector Transit System.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Chair Boehne, Commissioners, Director Garrett, it's great that you're here today. My backyard. I had a whopping 15-minute commute to get to the meeting today, so appreciate you coming up to the North Coast. So public transportation in Northwest Oregon is especially important to help reduce congestion on the highway system. And I'm proud to be part of the Northwest Connector, which is a 5-county system that came together in 2013 under a Department of Energy grant to develop the connector system in order to provide seamless connections between our systems to allow people to leave their cars at home in the Willamette Valley. They can travel to the coast where they can connect from Astoria to Yachats on our systems. We offer 2 passes, a 3-day pass for $25 and a 7-day pass for $30. That includes a round-trip ticket from the Valley and unlimited travel between Astoria and Yachats. We operate under an IGA and have recently updated our management plan in order to further streamline connections. Since our inception, our connector routes have provided over 1 million rides, and we're very proud of that. We are a nationwide model for how neighboring agencies could and should coordinate services in order to make it a viable option for riders to take advantage of. When I go to conferences across the country, when people find out where I'm from, they ask questions about that because they want to implement the same type of system where they're at. This year, at the beginning of the year, we added 2 additional connections with Tillamook Transit District. And with those 2 additional connections, my agency has experienced a 35% increase in ridership just on the weekends. Very, very, very successful. We've embarked on a transit access project that provides designs for 24 stops that we identified in Northwest Oregon. This was a 2015-18 STIP funded project for the Northwest Connector, and we have a budget of $367,000. ODOT, through its consultant, has completed the conceptual design work and are currently working on survey and environmental work. They've developed 4 different transit stop designs that fit ridership levels and geographic locality that will be replicated throughout the region. Once this project is completed, which should be this winter, we hope, we'll be looking for funding opportunities for construction. And I want to touch real quick on that. One of the things that popped up in our county here in Clatsop County is a potential development out in the small community of Napa for a small retail store. And we're working with the developer on that transit stop because that was one that we've identified through this grant this project we're working on. Another project recently completed was the rollout of our new website for the Northwest Connector and the partner agencies. And this was a grant that we had received for statewide benefit. And the nice thing about it, it made a very easy to use website, easy to navigate. But most importantly, it provided a template that's been provided to every transit agency across the state of Oregon that they can use this template. And I really like that idea, and I've spoke to this before with a lot of groups, that if I'm coming here from, say, Ohio, and I want to cross the state of Oregon on the buses, and I go to the different websites, it would sure be nice if they were all kind of the same. And so we're trying to simplify it for the riders that come to the state. So that's kind of some things that are going on with the Northwest Connector right now.
Little engine that could.
Absolutely.
Really. It's just great. Yes.
Do you want us to speak to the questions at this point, Ms. Null, or how do you?
Is that how you'd like
Sure,
to
that
do
would be great. And I just wanted to also note for my colleagues on the commission, so you have 4 counties, 21 cities, and 5 ports, not to mention 3 transit districts. When we talk about consensus building and we talk about partnership and limited resources and a lot of need, how do you do that? And so I think that's also, first I want to commend you because I know that it's working, but then also let us know how.
Well, I can let you know how right now, the maintenance of the acts. The Area Commissions on Transportation were a creation of ODOT, and they are, as far as I'm concerned, invaluable. We have 29 voting members with alternates. The attendance is robust. I make going to the ACT meetings a priority. I know that Representative Witt has been there. Representative Boone has attended these meetings. We also provide a forum for tribal input, congressional input. Economic development folks are frequently in the room. We've had commission members attend. At one time, there were commission members assigned to the acts. I think given your just basic travel schedule, that may have become onerous. But I know through the ODOT professional staff that there is robust reporting back on what goes on. I had heard rumors some time ago that maybe the OTC was looking at throttling back the acts given the passage of House Bill 2017, and I would plead with you not to do that. These are exceptionally important portals of entry. They are portals of entry for citizens. I have had many people call me to complain about a certain intersection that's dangerous or a certain corner that's dangerous. And my argument has always been bring that to the ACT, at least begin to air the issue, get it on lists, bring it up to a point of public discussion where we could move forward or not with the issue. We're not always going to disagree. I mean, always agree. I know there are some ACT members that have made the effort to come here today. We're not always going to land on the same set of priorities. You queried us about preservation, safety, and congestion, or how do you get this many cats to all march in the same direction. I would submit that even though we may come away from a meeting with an incomplete consensus, we certainly have afforded Oregonians as well as municipalities, tribes, all of the people that I just mentioned, the opportunity to be heard. And for so many people, that is exquisitely important. And so beyond Connect Oregon, which I think was another ODOT wonderful idea, the ACTS rate right up there as, for me, one of the most critical and vital forums for sharing information, opinions, and professional information.
And for the OTC, hearing from you what your priorities are within the region is invaluable to helping us first set good policy and be able to recognize where we need to be making investments. So that feedback loop is critical to our success as well in serving the state of Oregon.
I'd just like to say ditto, because that was my notes too, but she's right on track. But it's important to note that most of these members from all of these buckets come to these meetings. And everybody is heard, everybody's given the opportunity, and we all respect each other, whether you're from the public or whether you're from ODOT. We have excellent, excellent staff and people from ODOT that are there giving us information, helping us guide the big process as it goes up those ladders and as the funding is coming through. We need all of that, and we need it all together. But Senator is right. Having the ability for any one of our constituents to walk into that room and be heard by such a huge cross-section of their neighbors in the region is invaluable, and I have to say it's critical for us to keep the acts.
There was a time, and I don't want to induce post-traumatic stress syndrome in Tita, but there was a time when a large project was being planned for Seaside, and others, through the collaborative process that we have in the Northwest, set projects aside, parochial projects aside, to allow one project to amalgamate sufficient resources to move forward. Now, as it came to pass, it didn't. But the point of the story is that given the forum of the act, we can at least have this conversation. Does one community have a pressing need, and are all of the rest of the communities willing to step back and allow a project to proceed? To me, that's the best Oregonian way to try to solve things. The only caveat is, I think if someone's going to take a pass on a project, they need to have some assurance that they'll get their turn in the barrel. But it is that kind of give and take that is the forum created by the act.
Question number two, Jeff?
Number two, I'd be happy to. It's kind of my bailiwick. So you've heard about, the coast is Portland's playground, and that's very true. We're not a 9-to-5 economy. We're a 24-hour economy with the service workers, the hospitality workers. And so things that we're looking at, for improvements through HB 2017 are how can we provide that later evening or even early morning expanded service? 2 years ago, I already started it in Clatsop County. I went 2 hours later in the evening just because I recognized that people needed that ability, but there's still room for improvement on that. We can always use additional routes and more frequent service on certain routes. For example, Highway 101 right now, it's a 2-hour loop. Again, a couple years ago, I added it to be an hourly loop or hourly service just during the peak hours, and I want to get that to fill that throughout the whole day. And the same holds true down in Tillamook County too. A lot of people go there to the coast, and they've got some nice areas on the coast as well. In Commissioner Highmiller's county, 70% of the workforce commutes to either Portland or Washington County, and that's a big challenge for them. Those are dynamite routes and carry a lot of people, a lot of commuters, and keep people off the highway. So this could be an opportunity for them to focus possibly on some of the smaller communities within the county that don't have as robust service as that run to Portland. And they talked about OMIC before. If that goes through, that's a huge deal, and transit's going to play a big role in that as well. One of the things we're looking at is better technology. Just like urban systems, we need that data that is out there that's available One of the things that both Tillamook County has done and my agency is we've recently started real-time bus tracking, which lets us know how we're doing performance-wise, on-time performance, but it also gives the riders that have smartphones an app that they can be standing at a bus stop or waiting at their house, which is a block from the bus stop in the fall and winter when it's pouring down sideways rain, and know when that bus is going to show up and plan their walk from their house. So those have been really great tools for us. The next thing that I'm going to bite off is going to be electronic fare, probably towards the end of this fiscal year. I've been waiting for HB 2017. 2 years ago, we adopted our long-range comprehensive transportation plan, and that has been sitting on my desk next to my computer. It has not gone on a bookshelf. It's been sitting right there, and now the funding is there. We know what the projects are that we want to do, and we're going to be able to have the funds to put that in place. Shifting demographics with millennials, they want to ride the bus, they're driving less. We have our senior population has grown immensely, and there's a point in time when they're no longer able to drive, and we need to be a good alternative for them. But in order to be a good alternative, we need to have reliable transportation and provide the service that they really need to get to where they want to go. And that's my job. I love it. I love to get people where they need to go.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
To address your third question, I think it was interesting when you talk about the commission wrestling between all of those needs. I think it's the same thing that committees like ours wrestle with. Our local road departments, our city road departments, all wrestle with those things. And it's really hard to prioritize when you're talking about those things, because I think we all automatically want to lean towards safety. Everything that we do, we feel like needs to, do whatever we can to make our roads and our byways and our bike ped trails and crossings and things safer for everyone. So I kind of think that tends to be our priority, but they all tie into one another, because congestion relief also ties into safety. And as we look at preservation, same thing goes. As we look at making sure we don't have potholes and falling off curbs curbs that are falling over and are bad concrete and those kinds of things. As we go through and do preservation projects, ODOT is good at it. I know our road department guys are as well. They look at what they can do to not only preserve that roadway, but what we need to do to make it safer until the next time you come through and patch it up again. So it all does kind of tie together, and I think from our hearts, we all think we need to do whatever we can to make our roads safer. Northwest Act area has 3 freight routes which need to be maintained from the weather and congestion and safety for the increasing number of visitors to and along the North Coast. In the vast majority of cases, the North Coast industry relies on these well-maintained, safe, and efficient freight corridors to get their goods to market and receive parts and materials for use in their operations. That all ties into safety too, because as we talk about the Northwest coastal areas, we've got a really bunch of bicyclists that love to ride up here. That, whether it's on Highway 30 or 26 or 6 or down 101 or any of our side roads. I experienced this firsthand last year. I decided to go for a bike ride between Garibaldi and Rockaway. And it probably wasn't the smartest thing I chose to do that weekend, but nonetheless, I thought it sounded kind of like fun. And if you look at some of the maps out there, it shows this as a scenic bike trail. Well, that scenic bike trail in places is about as wide as that clicker right there between the white line and the fall off to gravel. And when the freight trucks and stuff are going by there, I was feeling a little bit panicky for my own self, and I was riding early in the morning, but then I got to thinking about these RVers that don't have special licenses or anything. Some of them are pulling RVs as long as this building, and the freight truck drivers, and what happens when the newspapers and the TV folks and everybody report on a story of a garbage truck hitting a pedestrian or a cement truck running over a bicyclist or something like that. It always sounds like it's the the freight operations' fault. And in many cases, probably not. And some of it has to do with those things that we need to do looking down the road to create a safer environment, because we can't stop freight. It's imperative that we make it safe for all of us together. Excuse me. I don't even need to talk about that. I think we're there, and I think that we've addressed that. But I think safety always ends up being where we all focus, and I'd be the last person to tell you how we can prioritize that, because so much of it is intertwined in all we do.
If I could make one more comment before Ms. Nell wraps us up. You, Madam Chair, opened a little door crack that I'd like to step through, if you don't mind, and that is the use of the Oregon Transportation Commission to help advocate at the federal level. One of the things that our last panel, the Regional Solutions panel, mentioned was the dredging at Westport. The dredging at Westport involves dredging a channel off the main stem that has just been dredged under the aegis of the Corps. This channel is about 3,100 feet long. 3,100 feet. It's nothing. And what we can't get is the permitting in place. Were that channel dredged, it helps ODOT with a transportation problem at an intersection in Westport with Highway 30. It helps Clatsop County solve a number of problems. It immediately puts 35 people to work. It infuses into the Portland construction scene more rock, which is desperately needed. Right now, I'm being told by aggregate producers that they're actually buying and selling from each other, aggressive competitors, because of the paucity of rock in the market. So we could solve this whole litany of problems if the Corps just said go. And the tragedy of this is that the main stem was just dredged under a Corps permit, and is all we want is 3,100 feet of this little vestigial channel. And so those kind of instances, if we can lay out a cogent case to the commission, and we could respectfully ask you to use ODOT's federal lobbying power and your own personal connectivity with our delegation to help us get the Corps to yes, we could solve a lot of problems very quickly with an operator of demonstrated ability who has turned, incidentally, a brownfield into a paycheck for about 130 people.
Which is incredible. So yes, count us in. Let's talk offline about that, because I think that is a role that we can play. And that materials cost is driving up our bids, and I mean, it's a statewide issue. So absolutely, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Please.
Senator Johnson, is that side channel formerly authorized and maintained by the Corps, or is this something that you would add to the Corps'?
On the record, I don't want to give you an answer because I think I know, but I don't know I know. May I come back to you with that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
To the bylaw. Oh, Jeff, did you?
Nope,
okay.
nope.
So we have, please, go ahead. Yep.
Madam Chair, if I may, Jeff, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You broached the issue of House Bill 2017, and I think through the leadership of Senator Johnson, Representative Boone, Representative Witt, and helping navigate and champion that historic investment strategy, we have opportunities in front of us specific to transit, and you mentioned that. We've had conversations, and you will at one time be before this commission with your plan, so to speak, and it's a triggering effect. You have spoken about the discipline you've applied, and I think if you look at the requirements coming out of that plan, the issues of enhancing, expanding service hours, the connectivity, and you've spoke to that, how you've reached out, maybe it's the Northwest Connector, but just the proactive position you and your colleagues have taken, I think that's good. There's another side of the ledger, and that's kind of a fiscal side. Can you articulate how at least your district is engaging in the fiscal scrutinies? How do we ensure that the practices and protocols from a financial aspect are just as robust and proactive as kind of the service side of the discussion? Because I do believe that it will be a significant conversation that the commission will need to have with you and the qualified entities that will bring forth those plans in the coming months.
Sure, and when you talk about fiscal things, that's that's the thing right now that keeps me up at midnight. You know, Sunset Empire had a bad spell several years ago. And it was bad. We've recovered from that. We're doing well. But that's always on the back of my mind, that you can't expand too quickly. You know, you got to make sure that you have a rock solid plan. And with that rock solid plan, there's two components. Is it going to provide the service that the community needs? And can you actually afford to do it? And you have to really know what the cost of that service is going to be. And I'm still drilling down on that within my district to find out, you know, what's it cost for this route from point A to point B? And I'm getting different stories from my staff, so I'm drilling down on it myself just to make sure that when we present our plan, that it's a sound plan and that we've been very disciplined fiscally. You know, my whole goal when I got hired 3.5 years ago was to stay off the front page of the paper because our district had been there enough. When I was a county commissioner, I was on the front page plenty of times, and I didn't want to be on there again. Now, when we are on the front page of the paper, it's good news. And we've been very successful at putting together the services that people need, and we'll continue to do that. So just being fiscally disciplined.
So we have, Ms. Nell, did you want me to turn it back to you for the bylaws, or do we have any revisions? We have the updated biennial report in the bylaws, so any
So we
comments?
have, Chair Bainey, we have these are really, really sensitive. I'm not used to this. But we have the updated bylaws. They were actually revised about a year ago. As it turned out, we ended up coming to this meeting because it made sense because of the location of it. And I don't believe there were a lot of changes to the bylaws or to the charter. So I don't think there was anything significant to point out. So I think we're good there. So are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation revised and updated bylaws and biennial report.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Well, and to the other members of the ACT that are here, I just wanted to say on behalf of the commission, thank you so much for the commitment of time. I've yet to run into someone who is involved in the ACT who doesn't have other things that are pressing, and that commitment and prioritization of making sure that there's an involvement pays dividends that I cannot even tell you, helping us to understand what's happening around the state, but also what your priorities are and what the needs are of your communities. So thank you so much for that commitment. They do have their act together.
We do, and we're proud of it. But thank you so
Excellent.
much for your time today as well. We
Yes,
appreciate you.
and thank you for the warm welcome. We are recessed for the day, and for those that can join us for dinner, I hope that you do, and we will see everyone. If we don't see you at dinner, we will see you tomorrow morning at 8:30 in this room. Thank you.